Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible. So my name is Pranav, and
Yeah, because there was some problem with my iPad and the connectivity is not working. I'm uh, rather constrained to operate through my smartphone. Is it okay?
yes, sir, it's okay, sir.
Yeah, we'll start it then. But please, you can
Okay,
start
sir.
it.
Okay, sir. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the second discussion of Samvaad. With the lockdown having arrived with unprecedented challenges, testing the mettle not just of students but also of the entire education system, we believe that as a part of our effort to provide an enriching learning experience to the student community, and we have come with a unique way of discussing and deliberating with a platform called Samvaad. We'll be inviting diverse range of luminaries who will be sharing their knowledge and experiences on various topics of interest.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. It is not the plan that is important, but the planning. As we all know, law is a very fascinating and vast field to make a career in, and you may find various sectors within the field to start your career. But the problem is whether you are pursuing 5 years integrated law or you are pursuing 3 year law, every law student is stuck with the question that what are they going to do after completing their law? Law colleges do not teach the practical skills that are required to survive in the world of law practice. A lot of ambiguity is caused due to the multiplicity of options available with the students that they can pursue after their bachelors. Some people deal with the problem of establishing themselves in their respective fields when there is lack of family backing. A law student is vulnerable to uncertainty caused due to the immense amount of workload in law schools and the obvious unsureness about the future career. Have heard the options like judiciary, corporate law, litigation, but how to decide the best career option that aligns with the skill set possessed by an individual. This session aims at answering all these questions and throwing light on life after bachelor's for a law student. Thank you so much for joining us, and over to you, Utkarsh, sir.
Avesta, just confirm, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to bid a very warm welcome to our esteemed guest speaker, Professor Dr. R. Venkata, who is currently the chairperson of Vivekananda Institute of Professional Studies, New Delhi, and has formerly served as the Vice Chancellor of National Law School of Indian University, Bangalore. Sir has the distinction of receiving the Best Teacher Award from the Government of Andhra Pradesh in 2006, the Best Researcher Award from the Andhra University in 2003, and Gold Medal for the Best PhD thesis. Sir has also been a Best Vice Chancellor Award for outstanding contribution to education during the World Chancellors and Vice Chancellors Congress. Doctor's primary area of research is human rights, humanitarian law, and criminal justice. Sir has graduated successfully with LLBs, PhDs, and more than 75 MPhil scholars. He has participated in a number of international and national conferences and delivered a number of keynote addresses. Sir has published more than 120 papers in Journal of National and International Repute, presenting several papers in national and international seminars. Over to you, sir.
Sir, your mic is not on,
Oh,
sir.
yeah. Now, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the sound and the light is effective.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much. I would say good afternoon to you, the 21st century hopes of this great country. And I would start on a lighter note. You have given such a lofty introduction about me. Maybe because you are going to be good lawyers in the making. Lawyers have a notorious reputation. The notoriety arising from the fact that when the case is weak, they give a long introduction. And when the case is strong, they just get up and say, my lords, the facts speak for themselves. Maybe my young friends have given such a long introduction about me, maybe because the case is not very formidable. Therefore, don't have high expectations. And I'm going to share my experiences with you. Okay. Be that as it may, let me first wish you all not just a happy 2021, but a happy next decade, because the next decade is going to be a very important decade for you. And I wish you a prosperous, peaceful, happy, and contented next decade. Okay, God bless you all. And I would address you as fellow students, because in that you will have a message as to what is that you are supposed to do after your bachelor's. And when I address you as fellow students, the copyright is not that mine. Now, I am adopting the phrase from Nani Palkhiwala, the greatest advocate that this country has produced. And Nani Palkhiwala was endearingly referred as Nani, as most of you know. And when he argued brilliantly in Keswant Bharati's case, which gave us the basic structure theory, a couple of Supreme Court judges, and off the cuff from the bench, what they said, how tragic it is that only the judgments of the Supreme Court and the judgments of the High Court are recorded and published for the posterity, and not the brilliant arguments of the advocates. How much the posterity is missing by not having a record of Palkhiwala's arguments. And I'm sure by the time you become like Palkhiwalas and you excel Palkhiwalas, your arguments would be recorded for the benefit of the people. I was invited once to address students in his hometown, Pune. There were 3 judges before whom he argued in Keswant Bharati's case. So when he started addressing the gathering, after addressing their lordships, he said, fellow students. Then, one of the judges said, Nani, you argued so brilliantly in Keswant Bharati's case, and today you are saying, fellow students. You know what he said? This is very important for you. A young person, as long as he is on the rolls of a law college or a law school, he will be a law student. But the moment he walks from the university to the universe with a degree, this law student will become a student of law throughout his life. And in that sense, my lord, I continue to be a first-year student of law, he said. And he had the humility to say, even today, I'm quoting Palkhiwala, if I have a matter to argue in a trial court, the beauty about Palkhiwala was, Palkhiwala always used to say, there is no distinction between the Supreme Court and the trial court. It's only a hierarchy of courts. All discharge the same function. Therefore, whenever he used to have an important matter, he used to argue even in the trial courts after becoming such a world-famous lawyer, which most of the Supreme Court advocates don't do, for many justifiable reasons, of course. That Palkhiwala said, if I have a matter to argue today, at 10:30 in the morning, my trousers would start trembling like a first-year student who is supposed to appear in his moot court. And the day on which my trousers would stop trembling, I will quit the profession. So, my dear young friends, when you are walking into life, please remember, you will be an eternal student of law. And the first thing that a person with a bachelor's, should remember is there are certain things which start in the womb of our respective mothers. And learning is one such process. And Palkhiwala himself said, learning starts in the womb of our mother and it goes even beyond our tomb. And therefore, after bachelor's, remember, your real responsibility begins. And you must remember, the one success for you to be a successful law graduate is a very simple formula. Remember, the sun rises even on Sundays. Remember, there is no Sunday for sun. Okay? And therefore today at 4 o'clock you are all meeting, sacrificing your Sunday evening. Notwithstanding the fact that some of you must have been glued to the televisions to watch the 4th day of the Sydney Test, isn't it? I'm a cricket buff, of course. And therefore, the sun rises on Sundays, number one. Number two, all holidays are holy days. The spelling remains the same. HOLIDAYS. Therefore, it is not 24 into 7 into 365 culture alone. And Palkhiwala used to say, it is very easy to adopt in life because the whole world may be thinking that you are working for 20 hours. But you are working not under pressure, but with pleasure. Therefore, a student of law must remember he must start doing everything with pleasure and nothing under pressure. And therefore, a Pani Nariman, a Soli Sorabji, a Nani Palkhiwala, a Harish Shalve might work for 22 to 22 hours, but they enjoy every minute, the aesthetic experience, the pleasure that they derive. Therefore, your attitude, and they say, your attitude determines your altitude. And therefore, you are very lucky in the sense that today the world life has itself undergone a changed meaning. Look at the spelling of the word life carefully. L-I-F-E. Okay. You know what it stands for? Learn innovation for what you must understand. Learn innovation forever. And you live in the age of innovation and not renovation. When I completed my LLB and my formal legal education in a law college in 1975, the only avenue that was available to me was to have a black coat. We were called black coat advocates. But today, when you look at the diverse openings that are available to you, the profession has broken the boundaries of the courts and has exposed itself to corporate houses, law agencies, law firms, litigation, administrative service, among others. And therefore, the sky is the limit. The first thing that I would advise young friends, hoping that you have not yet read those books, please note down 3 books, and these 3 books should be your constant companions. Okay. The first one is by Richard Susskind. I'll tell you the spelling also because English is a foreign language. R-I-C-H-A-R-D, Richard Susskind, S-U-S-S-K-I-N-D. In 2013, he has written a masterpiece called Tomorrow's Lawyers. Now, you're all tech savvy, and with your fingers on the smartphones, you can verify from the Google. In fact, Thomas Friedman, in his book, Thank You for Being Late, says our younger generation should be congratulated and should be complimented because they never point out their fingers at others. Whereas we, the elder generation, we always used to point out fingers at others. Then Thomas Friedman says, why they don't point out fingers at others is they always have their fingers on the smartphones. Therefore, they do not have time to point out fingers. Therefore, from your smartphone, you can find out this particular wonderful book, Richard Suskind's Tomorrow's Lawyers, An Introduction to Your Future. The second book, Richard Susskind has co-authored with Daniel Susskind. The title of the book is The Future of the Professions. The Future of the Professions. Now, what are they going to be in the 21st century? Now, the career openings, which I might be telling you, might be only 20th century lawyering. But Richard Susskind thinks 30 years ahead of us, and he speaks about 21st century lawyers. And the third book is a wonderful book, again by Richard Susskind, Online Courts and the Future of Justice. Online Courts and the Future of Justice by Richard Susskind. Now, this is on one side. The fourth book I would suggest, it has come from the United States of America. The title of the book is The Lawyer's Bubble by Stephen Harper. The Lawyer's Bubble by Stephen Harper. Okay. To have a holistic view of how lawyering is going to be in 21st century, you need to read all the books. Richard Suskind's Tomorrow's Lawyers, An Introduction to Your Future. Then Richard Susskind and Daniel Suskind's The Future of the Professions. then Online Courts and the Future of Justice by Richard Susskind, then The Lawyer's Bubble by Stephen Harper. And all these books are available to you on Amazon. Please ask your Honorable Vice Chancellor that I have advised that at least 10 copies of each book be kept in your library so that you can browse through them. Okay, that will be about 21st century lawyering. But as far as 20th century lawyering is concerned, the careers which are open to you, please remember, friends, the coming decade is going to be a decade of a confluence of law, science, and technology. Law, science, and technology. Okay, it will be a confluence. That's the reason why I would say, I don't know how many of you have heard about a popular acronym called STEM: Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. People say in 21st century you need to study these subjects. But I advocate that this particular acronym called STEM must undergo legal Darwinism, and we must call it MELTS, MELTS: Mathematics, Engineering, Law, Technology, and Science, with law being in the center stage. Mathematics, engineering, law, technology, and science. Because in 21st century, you are going to have medical lawyers. You are going to have engineering lawyers. And you will be having hybrid professions in 21st century. That's what Richard Susskind says in his book. In 21st century, you will have a legal knowledge engineer. You will have a legal technologist. You will have a legal hybrid. You will have a legal process analyst. You will have a legal project manager. You will have online dispute resolution practitioner. You will have legal management consultant. You will have legal risk manager. Some of the phrases you might not have heard about it at all, because people might be talking about intellectual property, arbitration, space law, cyber law, and private international law. How many of you have heard of the word private international law? Have you heard about it? Now, this private international lawyering, or popularly known as conflict of laws, is going to be a gold mine for lawyers. Now, private international law means, I'll just give you an example. Now, normally your contract teacher must have explained to you, X enters into a contract with Y in Sonpat. The contract is to be enforced in Delhi. If there is a breach, what are the remedies? But today, geography has become a part of history, and world boundaries have become slim. Suppose an Indian enters into a contract with Australia, and the contract needs to be performed in Singapore. Okay, and the contract is not performed. Okay, to which court should you go? Should you go to a court in India? Should you go to a court in Australia? Should you go to a court in Singapore? What do you mean by substantial connection? This is what you mean by private international law. Likewise, X marries Y. X is a citizen of India. Y is a citizen of US. They marry in Australia, settle down in South Korea. Unfortunately, the matrimonial bliss was short-lived. They want to separate. To which court they should go? So these are the issues that are emerging, and that private international law is going to be an emerging area. But my point here is, well, you have enough space for space law, cyber law, arbitration, intellectual property, tax lawyers, medical lawyers, human rights activists, environmental activists, remember administrative service, and young friends, please remember, by the time you complete your graduation, all India judicial services will become a reality. Already the government of India has prepared the blueprint for all India judicial service, and you will have direct recruitment like IAS and IPS officers qua Indian judicial service, and the details will be known to you very soon. So all India judicial service will be fortunate, because I'm told Mr. Garg was telling me that he belongs to the first batch when he spoke to me over the phone. And now the second batch is there in National Law School, Samvaad. Am I right? And therefore, I was congratulating him, saying that first is always the first. So you are going to have the stamp of the first batch of, and that makes your responsibility also very onerous. You are going to be the emissaries of another Samvaad, isn't it? Therefore, when you walk after 4 years or after 5 years, you will have on the anvil all India Judicial Services. But so far I have spoken to you about different careers. But I have never reminded you of your most important duty. Do you know that when you complete law and you become an advocate, okay, legal profession is the only profession to be mentioned in the Constitution of India. If you look at 395 articles and 12 schedules, no other profession finds a mention in the Constitution of India. So that means how privileged you are that you are going to join a profession which is constitutionally ordained. And an engineering graduate doesn't find a mention in Constitution. A doctor doesn't find a mention. A politician doesn't find a mention. But when you look at Article 22, Clause 1, you will have a word called to be defended by a legal practitioner of your choice. That means legal profession is constitutionally ordained profession. That means you have an onerous responsibility to fulfill and promote the constitutional goals through your profession. Please remember. And therefore, when you ask me the question, what next after bachelor's, I would say give 10% of your time to pro bono lawyering. Some of you must have heard about it. Because ask for yourself the fundamental question, how many people have access to institutions in India? And in India, like most of the countries, poor are poor not because they have no money, but they have lack of access to institutions. And ask for yourself one question, how many Indians have the privilege at about 4:30 in the evening on 10th January 2021 to enjoy the interaction with a person masquerading as an intellectual in a virtual platform? Okay. Already you have a great digital divide. How many? Hardly 2% of the Indians have the privilege. You agree? And when we have that privilege, don't you think that we have social accountability also? Therefore, to give back to society in some shape. And we are not angels. We are human beings. None of us is a Martin Luther King here. None of us is a Mahatma Gandhi. None of us is a Mother Teresa. But you must be guided by what people say, enlightened self-interest. And therefore, when I remind you that you will be joining a profession which is constitutionally ordained, give some space to pro bono legislation so that today you have what is called as crisis of confidence in the institutions. And that crisis of confidence will be on decline, and people's confidence levels will be restored, and you are going to be a foot soldier. And therefore, litigation advocacy is only one of the facets that's open to you. But if you opt for litigation advocacy, I will just go through an observation made by Honorable Justice Hima Kohli. You must have heard her name. She is now the Chief Justice of Telangana High Court, recently transferred to Delhi, one of the brilliant judges that our country has produced. You know what she has said? Dedication, discipline, and constant updation of laws, honest and sincere advice to clients, and carrying the trust of the court are the hallmarks of a good lawyer. I repeat, dedication, discipline, constant updation of laws, honest and sincere advice to clients, and carrying the trust of the court. Because please remember, you will be joining a profession which is called a noble profession in whatever activity you are. Well, you may become a litigation advocate, you may become a member of judiciary, you may join a law firm, or you may opt for the higher studies and you may opt for teaching. But legal profession was one of the three noble professions known to mankind. That teaching profession was not included in the original three noble professions. And those three noble professions are medical profession, your legal profession, and the profession of a clergyman. As to why your profession is called a noble profession is, who will come to a doctor? As long as your temperature is 98.4, you think that you are on the top of the world. But the moment this little fellow starts giving trouble to you, you think of a doctor. That means when you have a suffering in the body, you go to a doctor. And the doctor should have what is called, in your words of law, a fiduciary relationship. Relationship between a doctor and a patient, a lawyer and a client, a teacher and a student, hostel warden and an inmate, guardian and a ward at home. That means one will be in an advantageous position, the other will be in a disadvantageous position. Therefore, extra nobility must come in discharge of its functions. And therefore, medical profession is called a noble profession. And then you have the second profession is clergyman's profession, religious preacher. If you have a suffering in the body, you go to a doctor. If you have a suffering in the mind, you go to a clergyman to provide you spiritual solace. Therefore, he must bring to the fore extra nobility. Who will go to a lawyer? My teacher used to say, all human beings would like to avoid three places, but invariably would be compelled to visit these three places. The first place is a graveyard. Who would like to go to a burial ground? But invariably you will be required to go there. The second place is a hospital. At least for hospitality you should go. The third place is a court, police station, and a lawyer's office. When there is a calamity, you will go to a lawyer's office. And when you are in a calamitous situation, the lawyer should not take advantage of your unfortunate situation. Extra nobility should come to the fore. Therefore, you belong to a noble profession. And therefore, these are known as three noble professions. And therefore, you must bring to the fore the noble qualities. That means you must become a good human being. After bachelors, remember, education is that. Please remember, the best definition of education I've seen is education is that remains in your mind after you forget everything taught in a school. Education is that remains in your mind after you forget everything taught in a school. People say education is that converts an empty mind into an open mind. Therefore, when you receive this education, you must be, one of the former Chief Justices of the United States Supreme Court, when he was asked a question, whom would you like to appoint as judges? The reply given by him was, I would like to appoint a good human being who also knows a bit of law. A good human being who also knows a bit of law. Therefore, young friends, you must become good human beings. And the second one is follow your heart. Let not anyone impose his decision on you. If you think that you have the potential in you to be a teacher, follow. See, I have never practiced even for one day, even though I have. And for the last 42 years, I have been enjoying my teaching profession every day, I'm telling you. And because I always feel like a mother. See, a mother feels no child is a problem, but every child has a problem. You agree with me? Likewise, a teacher should feel no student is a problem, but every student has a problem. You must have empathy. Likewise, when a client comes to you, you must have empathy. That will happen only when you show concern for others. And therefore, after bachelors, remember the words of Robin Sharma. Some of you must have read his book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Have you read it? The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. The entire book is about advocates. And in that book, the central character called Julian, who is a criminal lawyer, remember, while arguing in a court of law, collapses. And then he asks for himself the question, why did God make me live? And then comes the masterstroke. He says, I quote him, please follow me very carefully. All these years, I have mastered law, but missed my life. I have mastered law, but I have missed life. Therefore, in your pursuit of mastering law, remember, never miss life. Because Oliver Holmes long ago said, the life of law is not just logic, but experience. Therefore, don't relegate the human being in you into the background. Let there be a new human renaissance, even in the age of fourth industrial revolution. Okay? Become an excellent human being. Follow your heart. And in whatever profession you are, one thing I need to congratulate you is today, legal education is treated with respect and dignity. A law student is treated with respect and dignity, unlike my times. Remember, Shettleward said, India used to have the tradition of producing brilliant lawyers in spite of law colleges in 1960s and 70s. And a Palkiwala was an exception. A Daktari was an exception. A Shettleward was an exception. And Shettleward used to say, law colleges used to provide parking spaces for vehicles which could not be parked elsewhere. And Anil Diwan, father of Shyam Diwan, who is the Supreme Court advocate, Shyam Diwan was a student in National Law School, Bangalore. When he was invited to address by Bangalore National Law School student, you know, he said, in our days, that means Anil Diwan's days, when we were young, nobody used to prefer an advocate in the matrimonial market. And therefore, we never used to lose our bachelor status, he used to say. And you are asking me to give you a handbook after bachelors, isn't it? Okay. And therefore, but today, you are the most sought after people. There are legal eagles. But apart from money, you have the satisfaction of serving the people. And therefore, read Robin Sharma's The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. You will understand what life is going to be. Therefore, my friend, young friends, a career in judiciary, a career in teaching, a career in activist field, human rights activists, environmental activists, NGOs, a career in international banking, multinational corporations. Remember, they are at your doorstep. And for a law graduate, you have a big cake lying ahead of you. As to how much size you are going to cut depends on your ability. Please remember. It is for you to take a cake and therefore equip yourself well. And that would be done possible only when, as I told you in the beginning itself, hard work is the mantra. As C.K. Prahalad says in his book on management, the bottom is crowded, but there is room at the top. Like in any field of activity, the bottom is crowded, but there is room at the top. Try to hitch your wagon to the stars, make your life meaningful, and 21st century India beckons you, and Mother India blesses you. God bless you. I want to speak for 30 minutes. 30 minutes are over. Now open for interaction, and I'll be very happy if you can type the questions, because sometimes the audio system may not cooperate. Okay? Thank you very much.
Ritesh, over to you.
The first question. No, that's very interesting. 3 years mandatory practice. Okay. If you are used to social media, yesterday night I was reading an article, either in Live Law or Barring Bench, which gave a detailed analysis on this 3-year conundrum. Okay. As to what the Supreme Court of India held in one case, as to what the Law Commission reports held in different cases, and as to how some of the high courts have not been opting for 3 years. Well, let me tell you, when I was a student, there was a 3-year rule. But then people thought if you have 3-year rule, the brightest talent is going somewhere else. And when they're fresh like a rose in the month of April, you must catch them young. And therefore, fresh graduates should be allowed to join judiciary. Last year, Rajasthan Judicial Service, then Bihar, they made it open to fresh graduates. And believe me, you have the brilliant talent there. And if a young person starts a career, remember, immediately after graduation and joins the judiciary, remember, because even 3 years experience may not equip you. That is one argument. If you go up the ladder, I'm sure some of the little angels would end up as judges in the Supreme Court. So, the Bar Council of India also has taken up this 3-year cause and filed an intervening petition in the Court of Law. And the matter is now sub judice. But if you ask me for my personal choice, remember, I would say a fresh law graduate immediately from the university, remember, should be welcome to join the judicial service because the best of the people will come. And let me tell you, young friends, my experience in Bangalore, I'm telling you, when I told you in my younger days, law colleges was a default option. That means if you have nothing else to do, instead of people saying that you are sitting idle, they used to join in law. But in Bangalore Law School, every year, at least 10 students used to join rejecting seats in IITs and All India Institute of Medical Sciences, saying that our first option is law. And in the United States, you will be shocked to find that if you do not get a seat in Harvard Law School, Yale Law School, Stanford Law School, Pennsylvania, and Columbia, then people will think about medicine and engineering. The first option is law. And I'm sure by the time in another 10 years, if not in 10 years, by the time your children will be eligible to get admitted into law schools, that day will come when the career option will be law school first and then the medical and other options. And therefore, it is debatable. There are 4 law commission reports on that. Please go through that. But my personal preference is for the fresh young face who walks from the law school. Okay, next.
Sir, I'll be doing the moderating questions one because we have some questions from the YouTube as well as our live is going on there also. So, sir, the next question is from Mr. Vedant Pandey. He's asking, sir, how can we choose the field of his or her practice? Should it rely on the prospects of a field and prevailing competition or mere interest of an individual? Also, if only interest matters, then how can one identify it? Over to you, sir.
What's the question? Please repeat it.
Okay, sir. Sir, how can we choose the field of his or her practice? Should it rely on the prospects of a field and prevailing competition or mere interest of an individual? Also, if only interest matters, then how can one identify it?
You mean competition?
Yes, sir.
Now, can it be typed on the screen or difficult? Just type it.
Sir, I'll be doing that,
Yeah.
doing that
How
for
one
you.
can
Yes,
choose
sir.
the field of its practice? Should it rely on the prospect? No, again, it has disappeared.
So there's a chat section there.
Yeah. No, there are 2 questions, right? Now, how one can choose to field of its practice? Should it rely on?
Ritesh, just read the question for sir.
Okay, read it slowly.
Okay, sir. So Vedant is asking, how can one choose the field of his or her practice? Should it rely on the prospects of field and prevailing competition or merry interest of an individual?
Yeah,
Also,
let me tell you,
yes, sir.
you follow your heart, okay, and you have to choose the field of your specialization, okay, not depending on the competition, okay. Remember, perhaps competition brings out the best in you, okay, and therefore the more the competition, the more will be the chances for success. But you must be basically interested in that. Somebody may be interested in consumer law, somebody may be interested in mediation, another person may be interested in family law, okay. Some may be interested in patenting, okay. And these are the days of super specialization. Therefore, wherever your heart leads you, please go there. And don't bother about the competition, okay. And then the next question, yeah.
Yes, sir. The next question is from Sashwat Kumar Rao. Sir, he's writing that nationalization of NLUs have been a long-standing demand. Why doesn't the people sitting in the top of the board of legal fraternity not willing to take up the issue with due seriousness? Aren't we slowly resorting to only second-generation lawyers?
Now, before that, I have seen another question. I'll be answering that. He said, if I do not have any godfather in the legal profession, and if I would like to do advocacy, okay. And while I'm answering that question, please type this question, okay. Well, young friends, now
Okay,
this is
sir.
an initial advantage which God gives you if you have a godfather. But there are many first generation lawyers that have reached the top and without having any backing. And some of the brilliant National Law School graduates, what they did was, because you are from a National Law School, I'm telling you, you must have taken some money by way of loan to join in this institution, if not you, your parents. And therefore, immediately after completing this course, there might be the lucrative corporate option. I agree, because you have to discharge your obligations, a pious obligation. And what our young law graduates from National Law School did was very interesting. They used to join the corporate law world and make enough money for 5 years, then quit the corporate sector, join the litigation advocacy, and use that money which they have earned in corporate sector by way of buffer during the period of gestation. Because in legal profession, as they say, you will pass through 3 phases. In the first phase, you will have only work, no money. In the second phase, you will have work, you may have some money. In the third phase, you will have only money, no work. You can pass it on to your juniors and everyone, etc., etc. Therefore, the first phase, whereby you are required to stay at the wicket. Remember, tomorrow the Indian batsmen are supposed to stay at the wicket. Very crucial. You are required to stay at the wicket. That is very crucial. And therefore, you need not, all successful advocates need not necessarily have godfathers, though it is a God-given advantage. But if you have the determination, remember, Robin Sharma in his book says about determination, please follow it. There are no real failures in life, only results. There are no tragedies, only lessons. There are no problems, only opportunities waiting to be recognized as solutions by persons of wisdom. So, if you're a wise man, you stay and success will be after you. And they say, if you are not after success, but if you are after excellence, after some time, both excellence and success will be after you. But initial disadvantages you need to overcome. Okay? Right. Yeah. Another question? Yes?
So, can I read it? Because it's there in the chat box also.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on elitism in national law school due to their extremely high fee? That's right. Right. Young friends, here again I'll tell you, broadly, I am in agreement with the statement that there is elitism in national law schools. But let me speak to you about the third generation legal reforms in legal education, and fourth generation, because of the shortage of time. With the establishment of National Law School of India University in Bangalore in 1989, a paradigm shift has happened. And you know, when National Law School of India University was established, people thought this experiment was started as a bang would end with a whimper. Okay, and people were watching this experiment. For 10 years, it was the only national law school. Nalsar Hyderabad came in 1998-99. Well, in 10 years, it proved to the world that what IITs could achieve in 30 years, it achieved in 10 years. What IIMs achieved in 30 years, it achieved in 10 years. You had the second national law school. And today you have more than 23. But there is a criticism that it is an elitist institution, right? Hats off to my former student, late lamented, in fact, as they say, people say, those whom gods love die young. Samvaad Bashir, I don't know whether you heard his name or not. Samvaad Bashir was a distinguished alumnus of National Law School. He started a movement called IDEA, increasing diversity in admissions in national law schools, whereby students were identified from marginalized sections from rural areas, and they were given special training. And with a sense of pride, I would say now, today there are more than 100 IDEA scholars, and you will be surprised. In the last convocation of National Law School of India University, a girl by name Yamuna Menon got the record-breaking number of gold medals, 18 gold medals. And she was an IDEA scholar. Remember, that means an idea which was germinated has blossomed now. And thanks to IDEA and thanks to the spread of National Law School movement, now you will be again surprised to know that in the first 10 years in the national law schools, only students from metropolitan cities used to join. Okay, but today, from the second-ranked cities in Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, people join. Lower middle classes join. Therefore, the criticism that national law schools are totally elitist in character is now gradually going away because of the number of measures that are being adopted. And this concept of charging higher fees is inevitable because you do not have source of finance from national law schools like the institutions of excellence from the government of India or the other governments. Therefore, if you have excellent funding from them like MHRD, now Minister of Education, of course, and Government of India, and some of the law schools are identified as institutions of excellence. That has been our consistent demand also. So far, it has not been done. Let us hope, at least during your studentship in the National Law School, some law schools will be identified as institutions of excellence so that there is no dearth of funding. And if there is no dearth of funding, and the Delhi University hardly charges 2,000 to 3,000 rupees for a seat in law. Okay. And therefore, that will also happen. But till then, it is inevitable. But remember, the policy of National Law School of India University Bangalore is no poor student would be deprived of his studies if we have secured admission. We have number of scholarships, and every year more than 30 lakhs of rupees are being distributed by way of scholarship to students. That means the human in you should come to the fore to help them. Yes, next question.
Sir, I'm sharing my screen. You can see the questions over there, sir.
Yeah, I was showing something about 6 vice chancellors and then it stopped. But what was the question?
Sir, I'm sharing my screen, sir. Is it visible? Can you pin me, sir? My name is Pranav. The screen is visible, sir.
Sir, should I read it for you, sir, once?
Yeah, you can do one thing. See,
Yes, sir.
now, see, this will be the last question I'll be answering, and then the remaining questions, Mr. Garg, I'll tell you. Please send to my email ID with their respective email IDs, and I will not go to bed without at least mail them.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
I'll
Okay,
be
sir.
answering
Okay.
all the questions, marking a copy to your group, okay? So that the
Okay,
entire
sir.
group stands benefited.
Sure, sir.
Okay, sir.
The object, the endeavor of all of us should be to make surroundings around us much better, okay?
Yes,
Therefore,
yes, sir.
and any number of questions can be sent to me, and to the best of my ability, with sincerity, I will answer the question, okay?
Okay, sir.
And one question I saw was about nationalization of national law universities, okay?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, see, if it can happen in engineering, if it can happen in medicine, and if it can happen in management education, why not in law? Okay, and you fix the parameters, you identify the institutions of excellence, and you please take over them so that our younger generation will stand to gain. I unequivocally support that demand of nationalization of NLUs, and I only hope that wisdom would dawn on powers that be, okay, to start nationalization, starting with the jewel in the education, legal education. I will always say NLSAU Bangalore is a crown, is a jewel in the crown of legal education. Starting with Bangalore, let them be nationalized and let the benefit be shared by all. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Sir, one second, sir. Siddharth, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, go on, Siddharth.
Good evening, sir. I'm Siddharth, and thanks for accepting our invite. So, I, on behalf of the entire team of Samvaad, would like to extend a very hearty vote of thanks to Professor Dr. Venkat Rao, sir, for enlightening our minds with their valuable thoughts and ideas today. Thank you, audience, for your insightful questions too. We hope to have some knowledgeable questions with you in future as well. And sorry for all the last-minute convenience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
sir.
God bless you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you so much for your insightful session.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, God bless you.
Thank you, sir.